Hi everyone, welcome to a new video. Thanks for joining me today. So it's been a while since I uploaded because I moved homes. And now I've moved, and this is actually the first tutorial that I recorded in my new home and the first drawing I made. I finished this leopard a few days ago, and in this video I will show you the real-time process of drawing the eyes, and I drew this with polychromos on Pastelmat. The full tutorial is on Patreon for only $4, so if you're interested in following this whole tutorial from start to finish, have a look on there. The link is in the description, and then have fun watching. Alright, so let's get started with those eyes. I've picked out a few colors for the eyes that I will name as I go along. I'll definitely need black for the eyelids. Then with that I use dark indigo, and then for the iris I've picked some blue and some green and yellow tones. We're going to try to make it quite a colorful drawing, but what I will start out with is map out the shape of the eyelids, make sure those are in place. Okay, so I will not start out with black right away for the eyelid. I'll start with dark indigo, number 157. And what I'm going to do is map out the shape of the eyelid. So I will always keep looking at my reference, so I don't trust my sketch completely. Still make sure to keep an eye on the reference to see if I did the sketch well. Didn't spend a lot of time on doing the tracing, so it might not be 100% accurate. So spending some time on sketching this out. And I work with quite a light pressure. I don't need to push hard. Then we see all these lashes sticking out. We'll do that later. For now, I'm just focusing on the very basic shape. And then right there. We have a dark shadow just above the eye. So the photo is not completely in focus. I see when I zoom in, it's a little bit blurry. So I quite like that actually, because now I feel that I can actually improve on the reference photo with my drawing, instead of just copying the reference photo. The photo is from Pixabay. Mapping out this dark shadow just above the iris. Just taking it easy, as this is the only tutorial I will do this month for Patreon. I'm going to take my time for it, and it will probably be a large piece and a long piece to do as well, so I hope I will be able to finish it in time, but I will also take my time for it because I want to challenge myself as well and make it as detailed as possible. Alright, and I also sketched out the pupil a little bit as well. Let's just make that dark indigo. Fill that in lightly. Mapping out all the important shapes that I see, like the shape of the iris, checking if that circular shape is correct. We're looking at the eye from like a downwards angle, which means that the pupil and the iris are not completely round, or they are round, but not from this perspective. It's more of an oval motion. Okay, I think that is good. And this will all be very dark. All right. And then this eyelid area can have a base layer of dark indigo as well. And with colored pencil on Pastelmat, you can go with light over dark. Though, if you push too much and the paper gets saturated, then it becomes harder to do that. So I will make sure that my layers are very soft and light at the start. And then I'll be able to go over with a lighter color quite easily. And here we have a bit of a highlighted area, but actually I will give that a base layer of dark indigo as well. Okay, so now we have the base down, so now I can start adding some contrast. So I will get black for this very center inner area. That looks just very black, so I will go with black right away. And if you push really hard with black, you will get a shine on your Pastelmat, so I will try to not get that shine. So I'm pushing, but not too much. Then we have this shadow. It's also very dark. The shadow in between the upper eyelid and the iris. Outer corner here is also very dark. A little bit of black above the eye as well. Alright. Right here in the corner I can put some more color. Some more blue. So I'm going to add some sky blue. 146. Let's glaze that here in the corner. I really like using blue in shiny black areas like this. And you can glaze that on top of the darker colors I just used. Might look a bit too vibrant right now, but you can always tone that down again. I just want to make sure to get everything filled in now. Then I'll do the fine tuning after that. Alright. And then in combination with that color, I really like violet, 138. I do as well see a purplish tone right here, so I'm going to add that as well. And I'm just adding that in circular motions. You can add it on top of the black to get some more color in the black. Right, and then I can darken this area up some more. So I'm going back with dark indigo, 157. Leaving this center area which is highlighted, leaving that a little lighter. This bottom section I can darken up a little bit. Then of course when we get to the fur, we will create this nice transition from the fur into the eyelid. We'll get to that as well. Let's add a bit more dark indigo on the bottom and as well to the top. So now you can start on making sure that we don't see the paper through the pencil anymore. And then with white, that's number 101, I can do a little bit of highlighting right here in the center. Pretty easily I can do that. I don't need much. Right, a little bit right there. And I can always adjust this if I want to. I want to add a little bit more black to get that darkness back. Making sure my pencils are nice and sharp all the time. Alright, so now we can start on the inner details of the eye. So for the pupil, I do see a bit of brown, so let's take a bit of brown. Let's go for burnt umber 280. I see a bit of brown just on the edge of the iris, so let's add that there. And a little bit around the edge of the pupil as well. Oh, and let's not forget the highlights. So there are some highlights in there that I want to put right in with white. I can always add more color on top of that, but I want to get that in with white right away. And I see a dot above the pupil. Let's place that. Make sure it's placed well. Something right there. It will stand out really well against the sienna paper. Really like working on toned papers. And then some smaller ones, and then I can work around those. I can do a base layer on the eye first and then put the highlights in with white on top of that, but they will never be so white. I'm using this for the larger areas mainly. And then here as well. Right, so now let's darken up the pupils some more. Adding a bit more dark indigo first, and then going over with black. Making sure to keep that shape correct. Rather start off a bit too small than too large. It's easier to make it larger. More difficult to make it smaller if you go too large from the start. Great, so now for the coloring. The white of the eye is a bit of a mix between gray and purple. I also need caput mortuum violet, so let's get that. So let's take a little bit of cold gray 3, 232, and fill in the white of the eye with that. Here in the corner. White of the eye is never white. So let's give that a bit of a tone. Because I also see purple tones in there, I will add caput mortuum violet 263. And we're going to build this up very slowly. Alright, now time for the most fun part, the colors inside the iris. So I see very toned down greens and a little bit of yellow. So for the toned down green, I'm going to use Earth Green 172. Hard to see the numbers sometimes. And as well, a little bit of Chromium Green Opaque 174. And then for the yellow tone, I'm going to add a little bit of light yellow ochre, 183. And then also use gray to prevent the colors from getting too vibrant. So I will also use cold gray 3 to add on top of that. Let's get started with the green tone, with the earth green. I see that around the pupil mainly. I'm just going to lightly put that down. You'll see that the colors go on the Pastelmat very smoothly. I don't need much pressure at all. And actually, let's take that all the way to the top. And then all those little small highlights we can put on top later. And then on the outer circle, I see more of a yellowish tone. I'm going to add a tiny bit of the light yellow ochre, but this is a very vibrant color, so I don't need much of that. So I use that with a very light pressure. That's already enough. Maybe it is nice though to make the eyes a bit brighter than the reference. I can always add more. First, let's move on to the Chromium Green Opaque 174 and add a bit more darkness in the green, especially here in the top half that's mainly in shadow. add a bit of cool grade 3. Mix the colors together a bit more. I can use the grays as a blending tone. And now I need more darkness and also more brown. So let's go back to the burnt umber 280. I'm going to use some of this around the pupil a bit more. Just dotting that in. Also here at the top. Now I'm starting to need more colors as well. Probably have to get dark sepia. But first let's add some more of this tone around the outer circle. I can now put in some texture in the eye by drawing some lines from outwards and then moving inwards. Alright, that's starting to look nice already. Let's get some dark sepia. Alright, so dark sepia is 175. This is a very dark gray tone, which I can use very nicely as a shadow color. It works really well with warm tones. So I'm going to put that on the top half of the iris to create that shadow. Okay, so now I need to put back in a little bit of blue. I'm missing a bit of blue in the iris, so let's get back to the sky blue and add that on top of the greenish color that I used. Let's put that in. Now I feel I need a bit more of that green, so let's put that in. The earth green. This way I can keep on mixing, building until I'm happy with the tone. Maybe even a little bit of ultramarine, 120, around the pupil. And then I need some more of the glassy feeling in the eye, so I need some highlights. And that I'm going to do, maybe I need something like ivory. So I never know right from the start which colors I'm going to use. It's always a bit of a process. I always figure that out during the drawing. Maybe even a brighter yellow. Maybe that will look nice. I'm looking through my pencils. Here I have cream. Maybe that is a good one. So cream is number 102. I'm going to use that as a highlight tone on the outer circle. I'm just putting down some lines to create some texture. So this creates some subtle highlights. And then I can go on top with white to hype that up a little bit, but I don't need much of that. Just a few dots. Now I can also work on creating those other highlights. There are loads of small little highlights there. Right, and now finally I'm going in with black one more time. Darken up the shape around the eye. Refine the details. Oh, and the pupil as well. Pupil can be a bit larger, so now I can make it the right size. I really want him to look up like that, so I have to make sure that the pupil is well placed. So a little bit more on the top half and oval, like a lying oval. I never know when you have to say laying and when you say lying. It's a bit more dark indigo at the top, a bit more blue, a bit more detail. And then we're done with this eye. Okay, so now I can move on to the other eye right away. So let's get that in frame. Going to build that up in exactly the same way. Though this eye is a little bit more in shadow, so it's a bit darker overall. And I'm going to get started with black right away for the eyelids. So let's sketch out the shape of the eyelids. And the shape of the eye. And this is all very dark, all lashes. He has very long lashes actually. Really pretty. I will get to those later. I'll just focus on the basic shape of the eyelid now. Alright, so this whole upper part can be very dark. So let's add some more pressure there. Then this bottom part is catching a bit more light, so we'll add dark indigo there. So let's get some dark indigo and add that to the bottom. And the pupil can have a base tone of dark indigo as well. So we're looking at this eye more from the side. So this pupil is more of a standing oval shape. Alright, and then for a little highlight on that bottom eyelid, I'm going to add some sky blue, just right there, a little bit of a highlight. Alright, and then just like with the other eye, I'm going to place in that highlight right away with white, right here, eyeballing that. It's above the pupil, but a little bit to the right of it. And then a smaller one next to it. And then because this eye is in shadow, I will have to add blue to this highlight later, but just want to make sure that I have it in already. Alright, so before I start with the iris, I want to adjust the shape of the pupil a little bit because I feel like it's not completely the right shape. So let's adjust that first. And then I can move on to the shading in the iris. That's better. So we see that on the outer edge there's a highlight that looks a bit grayish but also a bit bluish. So let's put that in right away with sky blue 146 along the edge right here. And then I can do the layering. So I see lots of green in this eye, so I'm going to start with the chromium green opaque 174 right away. And let's do a base layer of that in the whole eye. Don't need to push. I'm looking at the shape of the muzzle here. It's a bit bumpy. Putting in that bumpy shape right away. Alright, so then I also want to add a bit of blue and a bit of yellow again. So let's get that light yellow ochre 183. Put that in around the outer circle. A little bit of that. Then for the blue I will add a bit of ultramarine 120. Yep, 120. I see a bit of blue here in the left corner. Just going over the pupil a bit as well. And now this all needs to be darkened up. First, let's get that pupil nice and dark, using black for that. Still focusing on that oval shape. Again, making sure to not make the pupil too large. Also keep comparing them, comparing the two eyes. Alright, so then we need to darken up this whole eye. I'm going to use dark indigo to darken this up. Glazing that, so I use small circular motions and little pressure. Let's get this top area nice and dark. Make sure it melts together a little bit with that eyelid above. And then to make this all a bit warmer looking, I will go in with dark sepia 175. Also glaze that. And now I still have to get rid of the paper texture a little bit more. So for that I'm going to use warm gray 4 273, which I haven't used yet. But on Pastelmat I like using gray tones as blending colors. When I work on white paper with a colored pencil I use the white Cardache. But I feel like on Pastelmat that doesn't work because it lightens up the colors too much. So I like to use a gray as a blending tone. And then when you feel like the colors got smudged out too much, you can go back in with some colors and bring some contrast back, some detail. Bit of dark indigo. But I don't think this eye needs lots more. I want to add a bit of highlighting at the bottom right here, so I'm going to do that with, let's do the green, the earth green. A little bit of lightening. A little bit of cream on top of that, 102. And then with the white, I'm going to enhance the highlights on the outer edge. Right there, just a little bit. I don't need much pressure. And now for those highlights right here, I'm going to add a bit of sky blue on top of them. Just glazing that lightly. That will give them more color. Tad of brown, burnt umber. You can basically keep on going until you're happy with the color combinations. So I'm going to do a little bit more on this. A little bit more black. Alright, so then we have all those lashes sticking out that I also want to put those in. They are a little bit blurry on the photo, but I do see multiple colors in them. So let's start with dark indigo, and I'm just going to put them in lightly. So with very light pressure, I'm going to draw those lashes. Clump together a bit. Make sure your pencil is very sharp. Keeping it soft. A little bit of black on top of that. Then for now the lashes are done. Alright, so that concludes this video for today. Here is the scan of what the leopard turned out like, which shows the colors more accurately. So I hope you like it. It's on 12 by 16 inches, so rather large. And I really enjoyed doing this tutorial. It is on Patreon, fully in real time, about 8.5 hours it is, I think. So I hope I'll see you there, and let me know in the comments what you think of this drawing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.